Hey people, so let's talk about tables and trees. And you're probably wondering what the table and trees have to do with the Becoming series. Well, those are actually metaphors, right? And they speak to possibly some of our worst indulgencies, right? Where we expect something or we want something, but aren't necessarily willing to put the work into getting that something. Now, what do I mean? Well, using that analogy or using that metaphor of tables and trees, when we first started to develop furniture for ourselves, and I'm talking about as human beings, we didn't have any points of reference, right? We just decided that, look, we need something to sit at. Walking around wasn't very comfortable for very long, and maybe sitting on the floor wasn't exactly comfortable. And maybe somebody just thought one day, wouldn't it be nice to have a sort of structure where you could put things on, your household things, your clothes or your food or something, rather than sitting on the floor or walking around having to eat your food, for example. And possibly, very possibly, out of that idea came the essence for a table. But like I said, there were no points of reference. So how was the first table made, and what led to that development? Well, I'm not sure if anybody knows the full story. I certainly don't. But I have the idea, or I seem to think that somebody one day looked at a tree and looked at the essence or the characteristics of the tree and thought to himself or herself, hey, what if we use this thing or part of this thing to develop this sort of structure, right? And out of that thinking came the table. So, what's the point of the story? The point of the story is everything that we want, and all the innovative things that have come to the fore out of the human race have been mostly derivatives, meaning that they have been derived from source material. But if we only stopped at the ideation phase or the desire phase without executing on getting the stuff out, or putting the work in to get the stuff out, we wouldn't get anything done. So the desire for tables necessitated that some work had to be done with existing source material, which was the tree, right? Anything that you want, anything that your mind can conceive needs you to put some work in. Depending on your belief, right? If you're a Christian, you believe in God, right? If you're a Muslim, the same thing. But whoever you are, you probably believe in some higher power, right? Now, that higher power, for Christians, we believe that that is God, and that God was the one who created the universe. But God did not create tables. He only created trees. And why did he do that? It was because he wants us to be co creators, because we have the ability to also create at a lower form, right? So he says, look, I'm going to do this, but you also need to do that, because you are built and you have inherent capacity to also create something, to also make something out of something else, right? And when we when we discover that capacity and we harness it and we develop it, we discover that we're able to make things happen. But if we only stop at the desire of wanting a thing without wanting to put in the work to get that thing out, it would never happen. So the tables and trees is a metaphor. If you want a table, you need to go to a tree, right? That's how the table will come forth. So if you want something, if you really want something, if you want a lot of money, if you want a great relationship, you have to work with the existing source material. That source material is not going to be in the end form of what you want, but you need to work on that thing. You need to work with that person. You need to work with the few pennies or the few dollars or cents that you have, and grow it and invest it and put the work into it that would ultimately result into the end goal or the end thing that you want. But without working on that thing, you're not going to get it. So if you want a table, grab a tree and get to work. All right.